first. The key to making and destroying me first. Okay, so I believe in personal development and leadership as the most important tool for societal transformation, because humanity evolved from one. We all came from one man. We all came from one place. And so it only takes one person to start a race. Yes, it takes one person to make a move. Everything starts with one. You take one step of many thousands. You do one thing first. So everything starts with one. So I believe that one person, personal development, one person, personal leadership can transform society. So that's what I believe in. Now, leadership is the ability to make decisions that cause movement of a person or people in a certain direction with clearly defined purpose. So I'm not talking about positive or negative leadership at this moment. I'm just giving a definition of leadership, what it means. So it could be positive, it could be negative, but the idea is that it is the ability to make a decision that helps or causes people or causes a person to move in a certain direction with purpose, with clearly defined purpose. That's what leadership is. Now, my mentor John C. Maxwell, says that everything in life rises and falls on leadership. And that's why I believe strongly that our biggest challenge as a nation, Nigeria, is not corruption, it's not bad government, it is failed leadership. And it is not failed leadership at the highest level. I believe that the most critical challenge of our nation is failed leadership at the personal level. Failed leadership at the personal level. Because consequently, every nation is a product of its people. Every people are a product of personal relationships and personal developments. So it begins with the person. If we have wrong personal development, we would have wrong societal development. A collective of wrong people will bring about wrong nation. So Lau Russell once said that in vain we build a nation if we do not first build the man. So that's the implication. The nation cannot be built if the man is not built. So for me, the concept of me first looks at what exactly does the person have to do, what kind of mindset does the person have to do, the individual has to have for proper development that can transform into national transformation, that can change, that can move from personal development into national transformation. So I usually take the opinion or the side view that points to individuals rather than to people generally, So when you correct the flaws from individuals, you can correct the flaw that shows up in the nation. So there are two sides to this me first concept. The first side is the self-focused side, the side that focuses on self. And for this I mean putting yourself first in profit making. It's a big issue. For instance, in Nigeria, we always have people thinking of themselves first when it comes to profit making. Well, you may say it's not a bad thing, but you can understand how things turn out in our country when there's fuel scarcity. You can understand how things turn out when there's a news that the foreign exchange has gone up or has come down. You could see the desperation with which people try to make profit just to ensure that they put themselves first. They make profit for themselves first at the detriment of other people. It doesn't matter what happens to other people. People just want to make that profit first for themselves. There's always a concept of, look out for yourself, think of yourself. Nobody will take care of you if you don't take care of yourself and all that. But when it comes at the detriment of others, when it comes to making profit by all means just for yourself first, it's a problem. It's a problem of self-focus. And that problem is devastating on a general, when you look at the general consequence, it's devastating. So profit making at the expense of others, putting yourself first when it comes to profit making at the expense of others, is a problem of self-focus. that is negative. Then there's benefiting yourself regardless of others. Benefiting yourself, almost the same thing as making profit, but making profit has to do with perhaps business, but other aspects of self-benefit, regardless of what happens to others, as long as it's going to benefit you, as long as it's going to bring good to you first, you really don't care. People really don't care about what happens to other people. They really don't care about how other people turn out, as long as it's going to benefit themselves first. It's a wrong negative, is a wrong and negative concept of me first. And then there's achieving your comfort first at the expense of others. Achieving your comfort first at the expense of others. You can see why. You can see situations where, for instance, if you enter a bus, if you enter a public transport, some people would not make that shift. If you say, "Oh, shift, let me sit properly," or shift, it's amazing. People will rather ensure that every other person is in discomfort while they make themselves ultimately comfortable. Every other person can be in total discomfort. As long as they make themselves comfortable, it doesn't matter. People who dispose of refuse, refuse or rubbish that they will not dispose carelessly in their own houses, they just throw it outside, throw it in drainage, and just discomfort others as long as they benefit themselves first, or they achieve comfort. Their environment, their own houses can be clean, but it doesn't matter what happens to the drainage outside, because that drainage outside in their minds does not belong to them. It doesn't have any impact on them. It's not theirs. So people just, at the expense of what other people experience, they want to achieve personal comfort first, and it's a problem of me first. And then there's also the problem of extending gestures to those who are connected to you first, regardless of others. It's a problem that brings about nepotism. It's a problem that brings about racism and favoritism. When you believe that every gesture should come to you first, or people who are connected to you first, it's a problem that our politicians always have. Every good thing, once good thing wants to come, you think of your family first, you think of your community first, you think of your people first. It's a big challenge, and it has some consequences. What are the consequences of this self-focused me first attitude? First, depreciation in societal values. There's no value of love, the value of love for other people, the value of genuine care for other people, the value of excellence and standards, the value that people should have, everyone should benefit from what is called a common good. That value, that value is depreciated. People do not think of that value. People do not think of it at all. People do not consider it at all. So there's a depreciation in the values that we have as people, that we operate with as a society in general. There's a depreciation in value. There's poor quality of leadership in society, and it ultimately leads to poor quality of leadership. When we see our system, you look at our system of rotational leadership, for instance, it's all born out of the me first self-focus attitude. It's all born out of that, because every ethnic group, every part of the nation wants to benefit from the national cake, wants to have its own share. And then the mutual disrespect, mutual distrust that hovers around the people of our nation makes it something that is now acceptable. For you did your turn last time, now it's the turn of these people, and it should be the turn of these people. So regardless of whether these people have a better candidate, or these people have good leaders, or these people do not have any good leader to show up or to present, as long as it's their turn, it gets to them regardless. And then even when they have good people, but as long as the most prominent person there is the turn of these people, so they just put up the most prominent or the most powerful person, and then we have poor quality of leadership. So we're not choosing leaders based on their capacity, based on their ability, or based on their competence. We're choosing leaders based on where they're from. Whose turn is it? Is it my turn first, or it is your turn? It's a problem for our nation. In fact, we shouldn't go too far to look at that. Our present president, he rode on the fact that it was his turn to be president. So regardless of whether he's competent or he's able or capable, as long as it was his turn, well, everybody can go to hell. And that's the problem of leadership in our country. There's an increase in vices. Increase in vices. Now we have so much Yahoo boys everywhere. It's the increase in vices. If you go to some communities, parents encourage their children to go into cyber crime, Yahoo, because they believe it is their turn. Not their turn. Because they believe they should benefit. They should make profit. It is my idea. My family must not be in suffering. It doesn't matter what happens to any other person. It doesn't matter who I defraud. It doesn't matter how that person's life turns out. Whether the person worked so hard for his money, and then in the twinkling of an eye, you defraud the person and put the person in penury, put the person in depression, put the person in heartache, heart attack, or the person loses his life or has one health issue. It doesn't matter. As long as you can make this money for yourself and benefit your family, it really doesn't matter. It's a problem. It increases the vices of crime. Crime goes up. The crime rate goes up because people do not look at values that benefit everyone. They look at things that benefit themselves first. And then there's redundant development. When things like this happen, development is redundant. When leaders go into power, they think of all the projects that can be done in their own community first. They think of all the projects that be done in their own states first, and then they focus. The former president said very famously on BBC one time and said, well, he's going to focus his development on the areas that gave him votes. And this supposedly was a president of a nation with 36 states and thousands of local government. You understand? So it's funny, but when we have that attitude of me first, my people first, my side first, it causes a lot of redundancy in development. So the people who do not have any representative at the top level will not have development because, well, it's not their turn. And when their turn comes, whatever they do, well, that's their problem. So that's a problem. Now, but the other side of the me first concept is the concept of self-responsibility, and this has to do with having personal actions that always have general consequences. When you know that, understanding and knowing that your personal actions, when you realize that your personal actions will always have general consequences. The person who throws rubbish in the general drainage does not realize that at the end of the day it's going to cause a blockade at some point on the street, and then the whole place is going to be flooded. That person does not think of that. The light, or will I call them NEPA official, who makes sure that he cheats and then cuts corners just to make extra money, overbill people, and then doesn't remit what he is supposed to remit, does not realize at the end of the day that he's shortchanging his employer, that the light that is going to be supplied, if it is not duly accounted for, everybody will not get proper electricity or maximum electricity. At the end of the day, it has a domino effect. It has a domino effect that what you do in this one step may look so personal, but it has some general consequences. It has some general consequences. When you understand that personal improvement is for general development, when you understand that when you improve yourself, when you ensure that the people that live around you or live with you, your family is well built, when your family is well educated, when your family is well instructed, it will now recompense or have consequences on the society's general improvement. That poor families will consequence in poor nations, poor communities. When you have poor attitudes in family people, you will have poor attitudes in community people. When you have poor attitudes in community people, you have poor attitudes in state people. When you have you have good people in families, it will translate into good people in the community, and this has the ripple effect. It is self-responsibility that helps you realize this, and when you realize this, it makes society in general a better place. And then people who have the "it was me" if it was me mindset, whenever you relate with people, whenever you want to do something that will impact others, whenever you want to take an action, you always ask yourself, if it was me that would be the other person on the receiving end of this action, how would I take it? If it was me, how would I take it? How would I feel? If it was me, how would I feel? But the conscience of people, the Bible says that in the last days the hearts of men will be seared with hot iron. Men will become lovers of themselves rather than lovers of good. So people would think of themselves more. People would not think of how, they say always put yourself in the shoe of another person. People will not put themselves in the shoes of others in these days, and that is a problem for our nation, because we have this poor self-leadership. It will turn out to be a problem for our nation when people do not think of what is best for others, or what is best for everyone. What's the best thing for everyone? People fail to realize that in the enjoyment of everyone, there is the personal aggrandizement, there's a personal fulfillment. People just believe that regardless, I should have personal fulfillment no matter what. And when they have that kind of mindset, they do things at the detriment of others, not realizing that when everyone is enjoying, there will be personal fulfillment. If one person is the only rich person in a place, everyone comes to them for begging. And then at some point, everyone steals from that person. At some point, that person becomes the center focus. And that's what's happening. When, at some point, the politicians thought that, as long as you can just give people what they want, but you just enrich yourself, it doesn't matter. But now what do we have? People kidnapping everyone. The politicians are not spared. Many of their family members are kidnapped, and so they have to pay those monies. They can't fly their entire community or their entire families abroad. Their properties are not safe. You can't hire the entire Nigerian police force to protect your property. So many politicians do not even live in their own houses or in their own communities. It's because you do things at the detriment of others, regardless of others, not thinking of others, and then at the end of the day, it comes to haunt you. So while it is good to always look out for yourself first, taking personal responsibility for the development of others by realizing that your actions, your decisions, and choices ultimately impact on others is key to national transformation. And that's my message. And thank you so much for your time. I know this was very brief, but I hope it passed some good points. Thank you.